Reading this really interesting sort of punch list that InMobi put out yesterday, I guess, getting ready for this, about kind of top 10 things about mobile and why, why it's going to turn us on our head. But I want to start with one in particular because we were chatting for a few minutes before, and you talk about mobile CRM and being mobile first, right? And I want to understand that because you're a content gal, and now you're talking about a piece of hardware, and I'm having a hard time bringing this all together. So
am I, which is why I have my notes, because I'm going to cheat a little bit. No, it goes back to what Amanda was saying and what you were talking about. It's marketing. It's all marketing. It's storytelling. It's understanding audience in a way that we've never understood them in the past, and using the various tools and technology that we have at hand now to kind of analyze the behaviors, the context, the way people are consuming, the way people are buying, where they're spending their time, just using those tools to enhance the way the brands tell their stories, and then enhancing those tools so that they can tell their stories across these various screens wherever people are. And now we're really talking about wherever they are. We're not talking about on their PC. We're talking about being on their PC, watching television, using their tablets, walking down the street, doing their errands, researching something in the middle of Times Square. So I think mobile first CRM is a term that I coined, I feel, coming from the direct response world and coming from the CRM world from a long time ago. I feel like we've come to a point where we're actually able to do targeting the way we talked about 20 years ago in DM, but we can do it now with an intelligence and a relevance that is just enhancing every day.
So if we thread that needle, because it's interesting, right? You've come from sort of a pure storytelling, content creation place in your career, and now you're in a place still about storytelling, but very data driven, right? Almost like you've gone from one side of the brain to the other, to use that analogy. So how are we threading the needle on leveraging data to create better content? How's that all coming together? Is it coming together yet, or is that sort of the path that we're all on?
Well, it's a path that we're on, but if you think about a couple of years ago when we were first talking about content, and we were bringing content creators together in a room with people who were trying to measure what that content was doing, in a room with people who were buying that media so that they could distribute the content. And we were really, if you think 5-7 years ago, we were in this place where none of it was really connected. So if we use data, if we turn data into smart data, intelligent data, we're using it to inform the creative, to inform the storytelling, to bring that information back to brands so that they understand their consumers even better, their journeys even better, marry that to whatever emotional side that they want to tap into, and you've got information going back to the creative teams that you never had before. And so hopefully the content will clean up a little bit. We won't be just throwing a ton of content out across a ton of screens and just repurposing things, but we'll do something very pointed with very, very clear precision objectives, and it's informed by the data, and then it's optimized by the data.
So I want to pull out another one of the punch lists, right? And it was that behavior is the new
demographic
audience demo. Yeah. It's like behavioral and usage information is the new audience that you're buying, right? I mean, that's how we're splicing it and slicing it. I mean, that's a very, it's a great lens. I love those optics. But how does that actually manifest when it comes to buying on mobile?
So that phrase actually came about when I was still doing content on the agency side. And I remember a couple of years ago, and many people probably remember this, when the census came out. And the census was really interesting because it was telling us things that we already knew, but that the government hadn't captured and disseminated yet. So we were learning about the new family. We were learning about how demographics are not in the silos that we think they are, the new face of America, the new face of the globe. And so as I was thinking about that, I realized not only have families changed, the colors, of people, the ages of parents now, having children at a middle age like me, but also the way people act, their interests, their behaviors, the way they buy, the context in which they do things, have changed relative to those demographic changes. So when I thought about that, I realized we're multidimensional. So marketers need to market to us, speak to us, engage with us in those multi-dimensions. And they come in the form of behavior, but also context.
So it's interesting, because one of the other, in that 10 list was that sort of the idea of singularity, right? That typically when you're consuming on a mobile device, you're consuming alone. And we've been talking, and it's interesting because Amanda spoke earlier about some research they did that sort of just tried to assess quality of content regardless of screen on which it was distributed,
right,
and if there actually was a difference in perception there. But if you talk about now, specifically video being a singular experience on this device that is mine, right? How does that, it feels more intimate for a brand. It feels like, so like the media placement and what that is also, as a result, the adjacency around it should be more intimate as well.
I think it's an equation. I think everything is an equation. So if you think about the, and I think the line is the era of you. So yes, you might be consuming something as an individual. It might be a very intimate experience. It might not be. It might be a shared experience, whether it's physically shared in the same space or whether it's digitally shared. But the point is that so much content and so much sharing across screens and sharing of brand information or content information that might be sponsored by a brand is 100% socially driven. It's 100% driven by you or I or the friends in our circle. So we have to think about, how do we engage a person on a one-to-one basis so that it feels very relevant to them, but then how do we engage them so that they want to share, they want to use that experience in a way that helps them to buy or to discover something new. So it's the same equation as hyper-local and global. It's very, very local, it's very, very one-to-one, but at scale, and it's very, very global, but very personalized. It's not easy. Yeah. I don't think that any of us have the answer, but I think that's what our world is coming to, and that's what the data that we derive drives us to.